So I'm Tys Davison, and I have over a decade of association with CFC directly. I've had the honor of coaching multiple rec teams over the course of about a decade for all three of my kids. My youngest still plays with CFC on a competitive team, and it's been an enormous opportunity, both for me and for them, to experience the value of sports through CFC. So my dad, Ed Davison, was born in rural Montana in the late 1930s. And he and his family moved to Oregon, to Portland, in the Second World War so that my grandfather could run crews building ships at the Port of Portland. That was the first time in Portland there that he actually saw soccer. There were people off of foreign ships who would come, sailors, and they would play barefoot in the park, and he'd watch this crazy game of them kicking a ball around, and that was what he knew of soccer. That was it. That was his exposure. Because he was a kid in the United States in the 1940s and 50s, baseball was his thing. That's what he grew up playing. He played basketball, he played a little bit of football even, but baseball was his thing. Dad's knowledge of sport was really formed by growing up playing baseball, because he was good at baseball. The fact that he grew up knowing sport and understanding the value of sport meant that in the 1970s, when my brother and I expressed an interest in soccer, and not so much baseball because I was terrible at it and Brett was better, but I was bad at it, he knew that it didn't really matter what the sport was, that it almost could have been anything. That the values that are inculcated in kids and sometimes adults through sport transcend sport. They're life skills in many ways. We have to know how to win with grace. We have to know how to lose with grace, and sport can teach that. It can teach self-reliance. It can teach dedication. It can teach camaraderie and teamwork. All these values extend well beyond sport. So in the 1970s, when the opportunity to play soccer in Salem, Oregon was very limited, you had recreational soccer, and that was about it. Through Parks and Rec every fall, he saw a need to expand on that. And so the way that he did that was to form the Sprague Sabres. First it was the Sprague Sabres Soccer Club, I think, and then Sports Club. It was expanded beyond, as a way to draw in a lot of kids, go to a lot of tournaments, do more things, and provide opportunities for kids. And it was enormously successful. We went to tournaments in the Bois tournament in Boise multiple years, and I remember tournaments in Washington and Oregon and California. A lot of traveling, a lot of fun times. And the Sprague Sabres Sports Club is part of the legacy of CFC, because it is one of the groups that came together in the early 90s to form CFC. So that's the linkage between what my dad started all those years ago, decades ago now, and CFC. In many ways, what has become all of this started from a germ of what my dad created years and years ago, and it's part of the reason that I am so grateful to have this opportunity to continue that legacy. Dad helped a lot of kids, providing these opportunities in sport, paying fees if necessary for families that couldn't afford it, doing countless hours of research, not just in the game. He checked out every book in the Salem Public Library on soccer because he didn't know a lot about soccer. And the reason he did all of that was because he believed in the value of sport. He believed in the lessons that it teaches and can teach. And I think he experienced in his own life the way that it changed and formed him. And I'm sure that he saw it in other people. Late in his life, years after he had retired from soccer and coaching and everything else, he would receive letters from kids who he had helped, sometimes with checks. And those letters said, "You changed my life. I know that, maybe you don't realize this, but I didn't have a good home life. It wasn't going well for me there, and soccer was my escape. Soccer was the thing that I had and the thing I latched onto, and you're the reason that I'm where I am today." People were enormously grateful to him for those opportunities, and And it was unexpected. Many times I don't think we do things with that expectation. Oh, I'm going to receive this benefit or something. You do it maybe sometimes because it's the right thing to do, maybe because you know the impact that it's had in your life and you know what it can bring to other people. And that's, I think, why he did what he did. He saw it maybe even then as part of just who he was, and maybe he thought of a legacy in some ways, but he knew it would make a difference. The thing that I have loved about CFC is its openness to everybody in the community, that it serves so many families and so many kids, and I know that it makes a difference. Just from my recreational coaching, I have had parents come to me only a few years later, not decades later as my dad's experience was, but only a few years later saying, maybe you don't even remember my kid. Being on your team changed his life. He was on a bad trajectory, and he's still playing, and he's got a group now, he's got a cohort, he's got some friends, and it instead of going this way, it went this way for him. And so I've already experienced that same thing, but CFC giving this opportunity, what is a turf field? What does that represent to CFC and the community? And again, it's opportunity. In terms of a legacy, in terms of what it represents to me and to my brother, it's a way of honoring our father. CFC, not just a soccer club, a family, right? And I believe that. I am one who sees it as something larger than just a soccer club, and so the chance to honor our father and the work that he did decades ago, the chance to bring that story forward and say, this isn't the be-all end-all, but this is one example of what one person did and the difference that it makes. And that's something that's accessible to all of us. We can all, in our own ways, make a difference for other people. And this is not just a story of a father and his sons. It's a story of family, it's a story of community, it's a story of what we can do for one another. And I think that's important. Is there anything else that I want people to know about my dad? He would be thrilled with what CFC is accomplishing. I think that's one thing. He would be grateful. He would be honored by this. He even, during his lifetime, spoke about creating a turf field so that kids could have more of an opportunity to play year-round. That was one of the things that became an impetus for us to make this donation, was that Dad had mentioned this in his lifetime. He would have loved this. I am absolutely confident of that. That his name would be attached to something that provided so much opportunity for kids, for families. He would be thrilled by that. And I would say that Brett and I are both grateful as well to CFC for the opportunity to make this donation and to play a part in this new turf field. It can be very difficult for me to talk about some of this. I mean, he passed away almost 5 years ago now, and for me personally, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. His death was unexpected. Even in the darkest of things, you can find light, and so maybe this is part of that. Maybe this is just one more attempt to bring more light into the world. And he would appreciate that too. So when my mom passed away in early 2019, my brother and I inherited their estate, and we wanted to find some way to honor their lives. This is our first attempt at that. And we could not think, my brother and I, of a better way to honor my father's legacy than to donate money to CFC. My dad had, at certain points in the past, always talked about building a turf field because in Oregon it rains, and that means many times the fields are washed out, the grass fields are washed out, and he was not able to accomplish that in his lifetime. But CFC offered us the opportunity to help contribute to that now as a way to honor him and his legacy.